Good afternoon, everyone, and joined by another guest this week on the Between the Stripes podcast network. And I'm joined by James Cook of the Crusaders Football Blog, a blog that I read a good amount, not just for Holy Cross purposes, but for the Patriot League, one of my two favorite conferences due to the history and just growing up near Holy Cross and watching those teams play occasionally at Fitton Field as a kid. Like I said, really admire James's work. James, did I miss anything in introducing you?
No, you're good.
Yeah, so I mean, with me and Jackson, I've talked a good amount about Holy Cross on our podcast. Talked a lot about Matt Sluka, the Zach Wilson of the Seven Hills, something that I affectionately call him. But in a couple weeks, actually 11 days to be exact, Holy Cross will be playing in a historic game that I've mentioned a good amount to on Twitter and on podcasts before. They'll be playing in the Edward Bennett Williams Classic, I believe. That's the name of it. But at Polar Park, the new minor league stadium in Worcester, home of the Worcester Red Sox, actually the most expensive ballpark of minor league ballpark of all time, nominally. But just a great game between two storied programs, Holy Cross and Colgate, with so much history. Holy Cross with the Orange Bowl appearance in the 40s, I think 46, I believe. Colgate with so many great teams with the 1932 undefeated, untied, unscored upon, an uninvited team that missed out on the Rose Bowl. Just a really amazing game on the 23rd. So James, just like you've been covering the Patriot League all season, do you have an outlook on this game in terms of both teams? I know Colgate's had an off year, and Holy Cross, you really don't know which Holy Cross you're going to get each week, something that pains me to see.
Yeah, I mean, people had them pegged to kind of run through the Patriot League, and I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I mean, they've looked very good at times, and then, like you said, a couple of times they've struggled. The Yukon game was just wow. I mean, I know Yukon's down but they looked very good, and then the Merrimack, they kind of struggled. Harvard, I expected to be tough. They're a tough team, and Colgate kind of the same. I mean, they, up and down, but should be a very good game, though. I think they match up pretty good, I believe.
Yeah, and the thing with Colgate that's interesting is kind of, I guess, how far they've fallen in the span of a couple of years, because 2018, they had one of the best defenses in the modern era in FCS football, allowing only, and it's easy to count. I'm going down the list and count how many points they allowed against FCS schools. They had 23. They allowed 29 points in 9 regular season games against FCS squads for about an average of 3.3 points per game. They had a streak. They had a streak of about 5 or 6 games without allowing a touchdown. And they gave an Army team that won the 2018 Lambert Trophy a run for their money. That game was a one-score game late in the fourth quarter. So, and this Colgate team even beat James Madison in the first round of the playoffs in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
3 years later, here they are with I believe they gotten a win yet? I think they're at 1-4, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh,
2-4. They're at 2-4. So
yeah.
yeah, 2-4, 2-4 Colgate squad right now that's struggling. They have a new coach. Dan Hunt was fired over the spring for some really weird circumstances. There really hasn't been any light shed to it. So it should be interesting to see. I mean, the defense for Colgate, they're not bad at all. I mean, they've had solid performances, but the offense struggles at times a good amount. So that'll certainly be something to see. I do expect this game to sort of be a grinded out game with the Holy Cross's running game and just the defense that Colgate has. But it should be interesting to watch for sure.
Oh, definitely. And you beat me to it. I remember a couple deep playoff runs for Colgate in recent years, and like you said, the James Madison win, and they definitely did well the last few years, and kind of rebuild mode, like you said, I guess, with new coach, and they want their people and how they do it. But I expect a good ball game.
I do too. I think we're looking at two of the premier quarterbacks in the Patriot League with this game, with of course Matthew Sluka / Marco Siderman. Marco Siderman, who my friend and co-host Jackson calls the Mike White of the Seven Hills of Worcester, due to him being technically due to Mike White being Zach Wilson's backup and Siderman being Sluka's backup. But Grant Brenneman has had a great year running the ball with 237 net rushing yards, 309 rushing yards gained, and 4 passing touchdowns over 1,000 yards, or sorry, not over 1,000 yards, excuse me, 680 yards passing the ball and 4 touchdowns over the course of the season. So I think we're looking at 2 of the premier quarterbacks in the Patriot League, and it should be interesting that they take center stage in this ballpark for sure. Um, and I mean, I think with the way Holy Cross is played, we don't know which Holy Cross we're going to get, but I still think it'll be hard just for Colgate to make it, to come out on top. No matter which Holy Cross we get, just given,
Yeah.
I mean, how they played over the course of this year.
I think if Holy Cross is in sync and clicking, yeah, they will be hard to stop, especially if the Red Raiders offense struggles a bit. You know, they don't want to be in a position where they're playing catch up most of the
No,
game.
absolutely not. And I think on the year, I'm gonna pull up their stats again. I think on the year they're averaging 164 yards a game passing, which is below average. But yeah, so this is a team that does not play well coming from behind. Um, but we'll see October 23rd. I will say this. So the Patriot League, at times they've had a few games broadcasted on CBS Sports Network throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, you had the rivalry 150 at Yankee Stadium had a national TV broadcast on CBS Sports Network. The spring championship game, the only Patriot League spring championship game between Bucknell and Holy Cross, was on CBS Sports Network, and that was of course a different scenario with the spring season. But do you think that this game should have gotten the special CBS Sports Network treatment? Because I look at their slate of games that next week, and I mean, Army at Wake Forest, or Wake Forest Army, is a quality game for the weekend. Of course, Army has their own TV contract with CBS Sports Network. But I want to say that the MAC game that they chose, I'm not sure who it was, but I want to say the MAC game that they chose has about as equal a pull as this game. And maybe I'm biased, but that's just my opinion. I think this game should be broadcasted on CBS Sports Network. I want to know your opinion, James.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that would be a bad rating game, especially for that region or any Patriot League fan or any FCS fan. Should levitate, I would think, to that as far as watching it. I think they dropped the ball there. And the Army game, I believe, is probably a noon kick. So that wouldn't even been a problem. I don't think so, but who am I, right? So, but no, I agree. That should get some ratings.
Yeah,
Especially,
and
Patriot League's getting a lot of conference games coming now. So not only would it be a popular game to see, but it's going to have some meaning as the way teams are going to fall into place here heading into November.
I totally agree with that as well. And we saw a couple weeks ago or might have been last week. Yeah, last week with Eastern Washington versus Montana, a game that ended up getting the ESPN2 treatment. I'm pretty sure they got pretty solid ratings in the After Dark slot. So I mean, if you just give these schools a chance, it's something different. And even with the Patriot League, so much tradition in Holy Cross and Colgate.
Oh yeah.
And if they center the broadcast, the CBS Sports Network broadcast on that, I feel like you could draw ratings. Honestly, the game that they have in the 3:30 slot is Western Michigan Toledo, and there really has not been an elite team in the MAC that would contend for the New Year's Six race. So I think that they could have taken a chance on this one, but maybe in another year we'll see a game at Polar Park on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, I mean they've got to look at stuff like that. I would think, it's not everybody like you said, wants to watch the MAC, and this one would have more meaning, really, conference wise, and give FCS some limelight as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, like they're in solid markets too. Like the Worcester market it's a pretty fair, it's a fair size, it's a fair size market for a mid-level city, but they're an hour away from Boston. You also have the Providence market. I'm sure there's a good amount of Holy Cross alums. For Colgate, you have the Buffalo and Albany markets in upstate New York. So I don't think they could have gone wrong. I mean, comparing it with the crowded markets that I guess that they'd be broadcasting from with Western Michigan and Toledo. in this weekend's game for that afternoon slot. But again, maybe another year. I mean, CBS Sports Network, they're in a position where they should try new things, being a network with low carriage. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it, and I see that you feel the same way.
Maybe they'll listen to us.
Maybe one can only hope. So so I guess going to the future of games like this, I do believe that Holy Cross will continue to schedule games at Polar Park and creating maybe like their own Fenway type game type of tradition.
Mhm.
Um, do you see Colgate being an optimal opponent for Holy Cross in these games, or would you like to see them change it up with like say Fordham? Um, I guess that's as optimal as it gets in terms of teams in that region in the Patriot League. But we also talked beforehand about Harvard and Brown being nearby and
Mhm.
maybe making this an early season game, which the good thing about Polar Park is it being a minor league park. The minor league season, excuse me, the minor league season ends in early September in most years to accommodate the playoff roster expansion. So having an early season game against the Ivy Leagues who open in late September shouldn't be a problem. So I want to know your thoughts about opponents for possible future games at Polar Park.
Yeah, I mean, it could work out to where they would even at some point all a Patriot League team will visit Polar Park. It'll take a few years, of course, kind of a rotation, and I don't think you could go wrong with an Ivy League. Say Harvard, I'm not sure if they're on the schedule next year, but say play Harvard there when it's Holy Cross's turn to host. I think there's a lot of ways they could go there, but I think it would all be positive. I'm not sure what Polar Park holds stand seat wise, but I think it would
Oh,
anybody
go
they
ahead.
would
Sorry.
try to get. No, you're fine. Anybody that would go, I think would go and see a good game and a good opponent. I know a couple Patriot League teams are down at the moment, but in the future, even think about them. I know Lehigh is struggling a little bit, but by their standards, but they won't always be that down.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's cyclical in the Patriot League. Well, except for Georgetown. Georgetown has always been bad, and I hope that one day they can figure it out. But it's always cyclical because I guess the restrictions are all the same on each program. It's hard to operate out of these programs with the academic standards and everything in the
Yeah.
Patriot League. So it's cyclical, and I would like to see all the teams sort of like rotate into a Polar Park game for sure. Looking at some of their rivalries, I guess the most optimal opponents would be Brown and Harvard. They have 62 as of 2019. They have 62 all-time meetings against Brown and against Harvard as of 2019. I guess we'll add this year's meeting. They have 72 meetings against the Crimson. Both schools are about 45 minutes apart. They could draw well. Looking at the 2019 attendance, so Fitton Field holds about 20,000 ish, I think, with the tarps now. Um, Sorry, I'm looking up the attendance. But yeah, but Polar Park holds 9,000, which the first home game for Holy Cross held about or drew about, I want to say like 8,000 in the high 8,000s against Merrimack, and about the numbers were the same for the Harvard game. So I mean, it's really not much of a downgrade for going to Polar Park, and plus the fan experience. It might be a lot better debatably because Fitton Field is aged. Even when I was last there in 2010, it's an old facility. It's an old steel facility. Um, that I mean, it doesn't have much bells and whistles, but it is nonetheless a museum of college football in a way. So I think Holy Cross, while they lose seats, while they lose capacity, they gain a lot in terms of attendance and fan experience.
Yeah, it's hard to replace those old stadiums. I know people want 21st century or whatever, but nothing wrong with a classic stadium.
Yeah, and that's what makes the Patriot League and Ivy League so great. Is like those stadiums that have stood the test of time, and the architecture is
Yeah.
simple and it's beautiful. I mean, you name them all. Like everyone knows about the Yale Bowl, the Harvard Stadium, Franklin Field. Everyone knows about them, but there's also hidden gems within those stadiums, like Goodman Stadium for Lehigh. Fisher Stadium for Lafayette has been around for a long time. Even Christy Mathewson Stadium, Memorial Stadium, excuse me, Christy Mathewson Memorial Stadium with a nice horseshoe structure has been around for a while and is a venerable venue. I have the Holy Cross attendance from 2019, and they drew about 8,413 a game. So I mean, holding a Polar Park game every year they wouldn't really lose much, and I think they would charge more on tickets and gain more for premium seats too, which is always a factor in
Yeah.
attendance. Um, so hopefully we see more games in the future. It looks to be pointing in that direction as well. Um, and some brief tidbits, I guess, before we sort of end this or bring this to a close. Colgate's last ballpark game came in 1964, believe it or not. Hence the Jets jersey, the Jets
Oh,
color rush. Shea Stadium,
Shea Stadium. Yeah.
1964 against Kings Point or the Merchant Marine, and only 7,435 fans showed up to that game, which I mean, I can just imagine a really empty Shea Stadium for that day.
Oh,
It couldn't
yeah.
have looked pretty. Um,
Brand
in
new,
the
I'm sure, at that time, too. The stadium was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll send you a clipping after as well. My old New York Times subscription from college. I'm still kind of using it and bumming off of, but hopefully they don't hear that. But yeah, so that was our last game in 1964. Holy Cross, of course, had their last ballpark game in 2016 with the Ram Crusader Cup at Yankee Stadium, which I think is a great idea. Honestly, I feel like Fordham should play their home half of that rivalry at Yankee
Oh,
Stadium.
yeah.
That one only drew around 21,000 for Fordham, but I mean, overall, a good draw for an FCS game in late November at Yankee Stadium. So that was Holy Cross's last game, and of course, you have the old tradition of Holy Cross Boston College at Fenway
Yeah.
Park or Brave Stadium. So it's in both teams' blood. Even Colgate has a few. They've played at the Polo Grounds many times at Yankee Stadium, which just makes this game so special. And I think other than Lafayette Lehigh or Lehigh Lafayette, wouldn't want people to ruffle any feathers. It is the crown jewel of the Patriot League regular
Yeah.
season for sure.
And I think a lot of people get away, they think of big time college football, or they talk, some networks just talk about the same 5 or 6 big teams, but it goes a lot deeper than that. And the Patriot League's perfect example of history. And just, I would encourage anybody to research any of those teams. And you'll be greatly surprised what you'll come across.
Absolutely. I mean, today I received some flack for saying that my favorite conferences were Ivy League and the Patriot League, but they just don't understand. They just don't
Nah,
understand. It's just hard to explain history to people. They just got to open the book and read it.
yeah, and like I told you earlier, where a lot of people thought maybe Holy Cross would just run roughshod in the Patriot League, but I'm not 100% sold on it. They've had their struggles, and I think Fordham, keep an eye on Fordham. I saw the other day, where he's talking about the quarterback, and just wow. And the guy, I even looked it up. I think he had 100. He's got Ryan Greenhagen, 102 tackles.
Yeah. Oh, he's a
I mean,
monster. He's a
31
monster.
against Nebraska. I mean,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, Greenhagen and Tim DeMorat at quarterback was a
Yes.
2021 spring season player of the year, and he torched Holy Cross in the spring. So I mean, that's definitely a game to watch in the Patriot League. Probably the most important game in terms of playoff positioning, and also Lafayette. Lafayette's defense has been playing lights out this year,
Yeah,
and they
they
showed flashes.
think they're 2-4, but I think they're much better than 2-4. And keep an eye on Alshon Davis, their quarterback. I mean, and I think he's a freshman, maybe, if I read that right. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on him.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot of parity in the Patriot League. And we're just starting to get a taste of league play, which is so exciting in
Yeah,
this league. A league so filled with history. And I guess as we draw to a close, I mean, if you're not a Patriot League fan, let October 23rd be your opening foray into just the beauty and flavor and history of Patriot League football. I mean, there's just so much history. I mean, whether it be the undefeated, undefeated, untied, unscored upon, uninvited 1932 Colgate team, Holy Cross's Orange Bowl team, Bucknell's Orange Bowl team, or even the 7 blocks of granite and Vince Lombardi. There's just so much history to be
Yeah.
said about these schools. Christy Mathewson, his All-American career at Bucknell. Just open a book, read it, and cozy up with that book in front of your TV on ESPN Plus. If you're outside of Massachusetts, and on I think Spectrum News 1 if you're in Worcester. I mean, a channel that I used to get growing up, the nice local channel 3, but on Spectrum News Worcester. I think that this game this weekend or next weekend, excuse me, will open up a lot of love for the Patriot League. Will begin a lot of people's love affair for the Patriot League. So that's my final remarks. James, do you have anything?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And we're speaking of Bucknell, in the spring, the first Patriot League title game, and they've kind of struggled in the fall. So I wouldn't rule them out as a potential problem, but for a future opponents. But I think it's more wide open than people realize as far as Patriot League goes.
Yeah, and you mentioned the championship game. That was their first postseason game. I guess unofficially, their first postseason game since the 1935 Orange Bowl. A good 86 years in between postseason games. Granted, it might have been a caveat and I
Yeah.
guess a formality, but it's still a postseason game. They still earned it. Their defense was amazing at times. So I mean, they earned it. They earned that TV appearance, but just really really surprising year. And I really rode Bucknell this last spring. So yeah, again, anyone's Patriot League. And just that'll hopefully show on October 23rd. And thank you, James. This has been great.
No
Really
problem.
love
Thanks
your
for
work.
the invite. Anytime.
Yeah, of course. Really appreciate your work. I'll put a link inside the description on YouTube and Spotify so you can look at the Crusader Football Blog. And it's not just Holy Cross; it's all the Patriot League, everything you need to know about the Patriot League. There's very few people that cover the Patriot League in depth. James is one of them, and also Lehigh Football Nation writes a lot about the Patriot League. So those are 2 accounts if you're interested in the league. And yeah, that's all I got. James, you have anything? Anything
Nah,
final? All
I'm
right.
good.
All right. Thanks again. And
All
until
right.
next time, peace, love, and soul, and go Saders.